Day 940 off the grid, and what I haven't filmed yet that I must say is the new generator. The new Ryobi 1.1 kVA generator we've got, which has been humming along quite nicely. But of course, being a lower powered one, I've had to readjust my charging scheme. So we've brought back a bit of an old friend, but the old friend's had a revamp. This is just a homemade, really simple battery charger, about as simple as you get. Transformer, bridge rectifier. It is fed into the solar side of my charge controller, so it is still controlled, but that's all you need for a battery charger, really, providing you turn it off when the battery's full. Now, this originally had a transformer out of a 300 VA UPS, but when we switched back to the red generator, that actually burnt out, and I'm not surprised because it was being overrun the whole time it was used. So I needed a new tranny. I hunted around in my shed and I found this one, and this is what I want to talk about. This transformer came from not the most recent rubbish chuck out at Mavtech, but one last year sometime. Might have even been before that, might have even been the year before, I'm not sure. And I took it home, you know. Sort of thing that anyone would chuck out that doesn't know much about electrical stuff or electronics. You know, it looks dirty and, you know, old and crappy. It's got wires sticking out of it. But this has turned out to be an incredibly good transformer indeed. I grabbed it hoping it might be useful, and once I realised what it was, I definitely knew it would be. It's actually out of an old Valve black and white TV set. And I remember playing with a very similar transformer when I was young, so once I realised what I had, it was real easy to identify the connections. The white wires there are the primary. These two red ones here provide about 120 volts AC. These two orange ones are 6.3 volts AC for the picture tube, but there's two other really heavy windings which provided the filament current for the rest of the valves, and each of those puts out, or unloaded, about 7 volts each. Probably drops to about 6.3 with the normal mains input. So I put them in series and I get 15 volts AC, which has worked out pretty well. The funny thing is, when I originally made a power supply back in my youth, my electronics mentor, John McIntosh, said that I couldn't join the two secondaries in series to make a higher voltage because the insulation wasn't that good, and that always upset me because my power supply went from about 2 volts up to about 7 or 8, and that's not really that useful. It had heaps of current, but not much voltage. And I thought, well, what's the problem with joining them in series? So I have, and there is no problem. Sorry, John, you can join them in series. Well, we'll see if he's right. Time will tell, but I suspect that those relatively low voltage period, really, I don't think insulation is going to be a big issue. Maybe he had a bad experience with one of these once, but John sadly passed away and he gifted me his multimeter. I should bring that out one day. But yeah, using this transformer took me back, and nostalgia aside, it's a great transformer. You can hardly hear it humming, it's so well put together. Back in the old days, when they relied a lot more on transformers, they really knew how to build them. Yeah. So it's excellent. It's pushing about 6 amps out into the batteries, which is connected to the A bank here, which is a little bit low, so I'm going to look at ways to increase it. Whereas when I was using the UPS transformer, that was pushing out too much current and overheating, so I was trying to come up with ways of reducing it. So yeah, there's about 3 ways I'm going to try to improve the current output till I get it where I want it. One is to put a higher primary voltage in, using a little step-up transformer, probably an auto transformer, to feed a slightly higher voltage. Naturally, when the generator is running, near full load, it doesn't quite produce the 230 volts AC that the grid would, so this transformer sees about 220, so naturally the secondaries will be lower. I could put an auto transformer on there to crank that voltage up a bit going into it. That's one way. Another way is to put a big ruddy filter capacitor on the output of the bridge, which obviously it doesn't have. You don't really need it for a battery charger, but adding one will cause more current to be drawn for longer periods of the wave cycle of the AC going into it, and it will actually increase the output current quite noticeably. The third way I could think of is to swap this bridge rectifier here, which is made of conventional rectifier diodes, for Schottky diodes. Now I reckon that would do the trick, but that could be quite difficult to implement because finding a really nice high current Schottkys is quite difficult, and they're not going to be available in a nicely put together bridge, so I would have to build up my own bridge out of individual diodes, so that would be the last thing we'll try. This is putting about 6 amps out into the battery. If I can get it up to say 8 to 10 amps, I'll be pretty happy. I probably wouldn't go much over 10. I think I'll be starting to push things there, and I don't want to fry up this transformer really. It was really good to use it. So yep, that's about all for day 940 off the grid. I resurrected my homemade battery charger. One day I might even tidy it up a bit. Oh, and the circuit breaker. It's an AC circuit breaker, but it is in fact on the AC side of the transformer, so nobody can complain about that.